Hey everybody. For the folks that don't know me, my name is Pat Higgins and I'm an award-winning illustrator and cartoonist from Wilmington, Delaware. Over the past week or so, I've seen a little bit of controversy regarding Scout Comics, who happens to publish my comic, Pulp Bytes. And I've gotten some messages and emails asking me about my experience with them. Much like Radio Shack, you've got questions, we've got answers. Those answers being my own personal experience. I'm not going to comment on anyone else's stories or experiences with Scout. You can find some of that info over at comicsbeat.com. They just did a story about that today. I just want to share my story and let you know that the business end of things and what we do as artists and writers doesn't have to be behind closed doors, doesn't have to be whispered about at comic conventions. So, my overall take on the situation is that the editor I was paired with was great, and the powers that be over at Scout have always been pleasant with me. However, Scout's lack of communication is unprofessional, inept, and at times incompetent. Their accounting practices are reactive rather than proactive, but you didn't come here for that. You want the story, right? So, here's where it all started. April 2021, I signed a publishing contract with Scout Comics for my one-man horror anthology, Pulp Bytes. If you want to check out Pulp Bytes, you can grab it over at pat-higgins.com/shop. And after I signed that contract, it took me about a month to get hooked up with an editor. Once that happened, the editorial end of things was great. The editor that I was paired up with, who I heard recently left Scout, did a great job and was extremely helpful and communicative. Overall, a fantastic editor and super nice dude. Unfortunately, he didn't always have the answers to my questions, but he would get back to me quickly, letting me know that he was asking the questions to the powers that be over at Scout on my behalf. And I soon learned that my best bet was just to go directly to the source and get information regarding my comic from the higher ups at Scout. I'd leave the editing to the editor and be my own pain in the ass advocate. So for the first year and 3 months ish, I was given no answer as far as a definitive release date for Pulp Bytes. I just finished my issues up and sent them off to the design department. In fact, I was told to send my files a second time because they didn't have them. I've got records of sending them both times and records that they were in fact received both times. So then they sent me proofs of variant covers that I had no input on. They were nice, but I would have liked to have picked my own artist and had a say in the art. It's my book, right? But I didn't want to delay things any further at this point, so choose your battles. And in July 2022, I was asked to supply my information for solicitation, and that was for an initial release date of October 5th, 2022. About 2 weeks before the release date, there was an email introducing the marketing team. And even after I supplied them with the information that was requested, there was no marketing. So I continued on with my own marketing plan, as I always do. I had a series of appearances and conventions booked. I also asked where my comp copies were a couple weeks prior to the release date, and crickets. Nothing. Days before the October 5th, 2022 release date, Hurricane Ian hit Florida, which happens to be where Scout and their printer Comic Impressions live. So I was told that they should still have copies of my book with them at New York Comic Con on October 7th. And at New York Comic Con, I was told that they did not have any copies of Pulp Bytes with them because of the hurricane. Fair enough. It's a hurricane, right? However, if the release date was set for October 5th and the hurricane hit 7 days before, shouldn't they have already had my comps? Shouldn't the direct market copies have already gone to Diamond? So I asked about the new release date shortly after New York Comic Con. No answer. Found out about the November 30th release date from a buddy of mine at a local comic book shop. Shortly after, Pulp Bytes was out in the world and everything was good. The plan was to release Pulp Bytes as an issue 1, then take that issue 1, along with 3 other unreleased issues, and put out the trade paperback a few months later. Several months later, I realized that I hadn't seen my initial royalty sales statement for the fourth quarter of 2022 or the first quarter of 2023, and it was almost time for the second quarter of 2023. It took multiple emails to get the initial statement sent, which I received in June 2023. And I received my next statement in January 2024. Shouldn't that be a regular thing that you send out? I only pay my taxes when the IRS comes looking for me, right? And I only pay my electric bill when the power's out. Way to be reactive rather than proactive. While I was communicating about the initial royalty statement, I mentioned that I had never received any comps of the Pressworks press plates, which the president of Scout had promised me on a Zoom meeting several months back. And to this date, no press plate has been sent. If you know the whereabouts of my missing press plate, please call the Unsolved Mysteries tip line. For every mystery, someone, somewhere has the answer. Perhaps that person is watching tonight. Perhaps it's you. So, I found the release date of the trade paperback again through my local comic book shop, September 27th, 2023. And as the date approached, much like the first issue, I heard nothing from Scout. And like the first time, marketing on their end was non-existent. So I planned my own marketing strategies, including appearances at comic shops and conventions. And like a carbon copy of the first issue, the date came and went. No book in my hands, no book in the stores, appearances canceled. I sent another email. This one with response a few weeks later. We are still determining when the release date will be. A couple days later, I was given a November 15th date. Shortly before that, I received my comp copies. So I rebooked the appearances at the comic book shops, and luckily I brought extra books with me to each of those signings, as the shops either didn't receive the amount they ordered or they received none at all. In addition, I received several emails from readers who pre-ordered from Amazon or Barnes & Noble, only to have their pre-orders canceled because they never received the trade paperback at the stores they ordered from. That's the quick and dirty version of the story. And from most folks that I've spoken with recently, it's pretty typical, unfortunately. And although it seems that others have had more nefarious allegations, which, again, you can find on the internet, I ask the question, were any of Scout's actions malicious? Did they know they were doing these things? Was I missing some sort of secret communication? Who knows? Could have been something as simple as not knowing how to use one of those newfangled fancy email machines. Could they have been faxing me the entire time? And it's my fault for not having a fax machine. Quite possible, right? Could they have been trying to communicate by CB radio with EVPs from beyond the grave? Maybe a telegram? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Good news out of this regarding Pulp Bytes is that it's won awards and recognition from American Illustration, Society of Illustrators Los Angeles, and more. I also did a really cool collaboration with Higgins Inks when the trade paperback was released. And, in addition, I'm just about sold out of personal copies, so not all doom and gloom over here. The other good that we can take away from this is that as creators, we should all be talking to each other and learning from each other. We should all be sharing our stories and experiences regarding the business end of making comics. And we should always heed each other's warnings and keep an eye open for red flags. If you want to support my work, you can buy my comics at pat-higgins.com/shop.